Hey, I'm Melanie, personal trainer and nutrition coach, and I've worked with women in person and online for over a decade now. My mission is to help you become your strongest self at any age. Today, I'll be showing you some of my favorite exercises to build strong, sculpted arms, and as usual, I'll include tons of advice for making the exercises more effective, but also more joint friendly, which is really important as you get older. Remember, if you find this video helpful, please give it a thumbs up or leave a comment because that really helps my channel here on YouTube. And if you want some help with your training, including many awesome arm workouts, check out my programs over on femalefitnesssystems.com. The first exercise I'm showing you today is tricep kickbacks on the cable machine. I'll show you in a minute what part of the tricep this works and talk about why it's important to train if you want nice looking arms. But first, let's look at how to do them. So to do kickbacks, all you do is grab the ball. You don't need to attach anything to the cable, and then you just do kickbacks. You really don't have to overthink it because there are lots of different angles and ways to do kickbacks, and as long as you feel your tricep working, that's all that matters. Also, be sure you aren't using momentum and that your elbow is tucked up against your body. So your elbow shouldn't be moving at all. That's a sign that you're cheating and probably using too much weight. You also don't need to use a bench like I'm doing here in the video, but I love bracing myself when I do any exercise because it always feels better and lets you focus more on the muscle you're trying to work. However, what I wanted to show you today is a standing version you can do because I know in busy gyms as females, it's not always nice to be bending over. So it really doesn't matter where you set the cable as long as this feels like it's working your tricep muscle. So in this demonstration, I've got it set up fairly high, and then I'm leaning over a little bit and using the cable for support. And in this version, you can actually see the muscle working more because the lighting in the gym was just right. So I'm going to freeze that on the screen here for you so that you can see where you're trying to work when you're doing tricep kickbacks. So think about the visible part right here. It's called the lateral head, and it won't add size to your arms when you train it, but it'll give you a really pretty muscular look. So that's why I always target it with at least 2 exercises in every arm workout. Now, just in case you don't have access to cable machines, you can do kickbacks with dumbbells, but I find it's harder to keep the tension on your triceps for the entire exercise when you're doing dumbbells. So bear that in mind. If you're doing the dumbbell version, it's really important to work on your mind muscle connection and try to engage that lateral head of the tricep. So we'll come back to triceps in a minute, but let's move on to a bicep exercise, or actually a set of 3 exercises, which is called a giant set. So a giant set means that you do 3 exercises in a row without resting until you've done all 3 of them. The great thing about giant sets is that, well, one, they save time, but also you don't need to use as heavy weights as you normally would because you aren't resting in between exercises. This is really good if you train at home and don't have access to heavy weights, but it's also really good if you have any injuries or sore joints because you don't have to lift as heavy. So this giant set that I'm showing you starts with incline curls. You may have heard me talk in other videos about the importance of working your muscles in a lengthened or stretched position. That's what we do when we perform incline curls. Your arms are hanging down on each side of the bench, on each side of your body, and they're behind your torso, which puts them on an intense stretch and makes these bicep curls really hard. So after you do these really tough incline curls, you sit up, scoot to the edge of the bench, and immediately start doing lap curls. Now, lap curls should be a little bit easier than the incline curls because you're not using a full range of motion. You're only curling down to your lap and then back up. But by putting them after the incline curls, they're a way that you can keep the tension building on your muscles without needing a rest. And that's really important. When you're doing a giant set, you don't want to rest because it sort of defeats the purpose of the giant set. We want the intensity to build when you're doing a giant set. And so you want to try to push through the burn as much as possible. You want that burn to build up, so you kind of got to lean into it. And after you've done the lap curls, what you do is you simply finish with an isometric hold, which just means that you're not just passively holding the dumbbells, you're actually trying to contract your biceps the whole time to keep them working hard. So I usually aim for about 30 seconds on the hold, and I just count to 30 slowly in my head. Now, one thing I wanted to do is just jump back to lap curls for a second, because they're a really great exercise that you could do on their own too, not just part of a giant set. And if you're doing them on their own, you could use heavier weights. And they're actually a really good option if you have any elbow problems or even wrist problems because of the shorter range of motion. So they tend not to be as hard on your joints. They are definitely a favorite of mine because my elbows are just really cranky these days, and they let me lift a little bit heavier without flaring up my elbows. When I do them on their own, I'll use a much heavier weight. Usually I'll use a bar, and then I will actually have rests in between sets. So I wanted to mention that just because I really like lap curls, and I think they're a great exercise that you can include in your arm workouts. The final exercise I wanted to show you today is called the PJR Pullover. Normally pullovers target the lats or the back muscles, but this version where you bend your elbows targets your triceps. This is another stretch-based exercise, which makes it super effective, and if you move really slowly, you won't need heavy weights, which makes it more joint-friendly too. If you're wondering where you would feel it working, think more the back of your arms where you tend to get cellulite or loose skin. This is called the long head of the tricep, and we want to be sure we target it in every arm workout to improve the overall firmness and smoothness of your arms. To target the long head, it needs to be stretched up and over your head. Think tricep extensions. That's probably the most common way to target the long head. However, I find those bother my elbows just a little bit more, regardless of whether I do them with a dumbbell or a cable machine. So my preference to hit the long head is usually the PJR Pullover. Now, it's a bit difficult to explain how to do these, so it's probably just best for you to watch the video closely. But basically what you're doing is you're performing a pullover, but you're bending your elbows as the dumbbell moves behind you, and then you're extending them as you move back to the starting position. And a very, very common mistake is to bring the weight back over your body too much, and that breaks the tension on your muscle. It makes the exercise much less effective. So what you want to do is just stop above your forehead and then start your next rep, because otherwise you're just sort of defeating the purpose of the exercise. And also, I wanted to mention, if you're pushing yourself to failure, don't try to bring the weight back over your head on the last rep. That could potentially be dangerous. So just slowly drop it behind you. There's less risk of injury that way. Just be careful if you're on a lower bench at a gym where there's rubber flooring, because sometimes those dumbbells can bounce and actually hit you in the head. So that's it for me today. Let me know in the comments which exercises you like or that you're going to try. Leave me questions there. I will answer them. Remember, if you want some help with your training, to check out my programs over on femalefitnesssystems.com. I have home and gym versions of every program, and I have programs for all fitness levels. One of the most common things I hear from my ladies is that my programs are the first time they are ever able to stick with workouts for the long term. So don't hesitate to give them a try if you're looking for something different. I'm sure you're going to love them. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you again next time.